Good evening. I'm going to be taking a look at a plugin called Triaz, and this is from Wave Alchemy. And you may remember, I think it was maybe a year or so ago, maybe two, that I reviewed the product, but it was existing within the framework of Contact, because that's how it's developed. But Wave Alchemy have actually put this together into their own plugin now. And I'm running in the latest version of Ableton Live, which means that I can filter stuff here. So if we come down to Wave Alchemy, we're straight into Triaz. I'm going to bring this onto this MIDI track. And this is the interface. It takes some time to get used to. I'm going to go through this, and in some respects this video is going to be a bit of a refresher for me as well, because I was used to the interface within Contact, and this is in essence me taking a look at this for the first time with a new perspective. So you can see it's a plugin, and the name Triaz or Triaz basically comes from the fact that there are 3 drum samples. You can see these arranged vertically. You can click on these and you can see them. And really what we want to do is, just to get this going, is to program something into the sequencer. There is a grid here that we can click into, and there's also a kind of shortcut to that grid down below. You click twice to go for the hard velocity. So I'm going to double click on all of these kicks just so that I can get something running in the background. So let's come back onto this and let's have a listen. The other thing we want to do is synchronize with the sequencer. So click on host sync, and now we can listen. These are just simply 3 sample layers. So these are navigated over here. So here's A. I can move this slider down. And we're blending halfway between A and C. Let's come back up, do the same with B. Let's just go on a little journey. And then all 3 together. So it's a really interesting way to start layering samples. The other thing that I'm going to point out here is you can actually select a randomize. And it's going to pick from a large list of curated kick drum samples, and these guys really do know their stuff. I've been using Wave Alchemy libraries on my productions for a long period of time. You know, I trust their samples. I think they do a great job in basically presenting kind of like the analog drum machines, running through some really great outboard gear and making great selections of sounds. If you want to see the complete sound list, you can click up here, and then you've got all of these categories. So at the moment I'm on the kick electronic section. There are others. Let's take off a tag. You can basically take a look through this list, preview on, you trigger it in real time. Tons of amazing samples. Double clicking on it gets that loaded. So there's a kick, and we've got these other controls that we can use here. I can adjust the pitch. There's modulation here. I'm not going to get into that at the moment. Other things you might want to do: distort. So it's got a lot of flexibility in terms of shaping the sound. I'm not really going to dwell too much on that at the moment, but you can see here that we're running with this one sound. Just going to blend. Yeah, I like that. So you can see it's a very kind of quick and easy way, as I said, to blend 3 samples together. In this context, I'm not using B at all. So let's get something different on the go. Let's go to the sequencer. Let's come down to clap. So just going to show you here that you can adjust the actual velocity by dragging. That's another way to do this. Let's take this off. Let's have a listen. Select the clap. Now I really like that blend over here. So we've got this kind of tight clap, but with the space, the splashy reverb of the other sample. So that's working nicely. Let's build up some other elements. Let's go onto that sequencer. And let's go for an open hi-hat. And let's just do the offbeats. I'm double clicking again. And you know, if you're used to programming inside Ableton Live, you know, the grid, you know, the drum kind of rack and clips and all of these kind of things, it should feel similar in a way. You know, the presentation is slightly different, but the concept is the same in terms of painting notes in. Of course, if you have a MIDI keyboard or a controller, you can trigger stuff as well. But there's something about this that I enjoy by doing the clicking. There's something about this interface that works for me. And many of you know me, I prefer usually to kind of perform stuff, you know, triggering stuff on the machine, for example. You see me doing videos doing that. But there's an appeal here of having this kind of focused area for creating some beats in a grid format, you know, by clicking. So there's a hi-hat now. Sounds like a kind of 808 hat to me. Let's come back to the sound. Not really fitting any of those for what I'm doing here, so let's just try some randomization. Maybe pick something from the list. Now this first one, just going to shorten that. Yeah, I think that's working nicely. What I want to do is add another hat, a closed hat this time. Let's do this. You can see I'm literally taking the last 16th of each of these beats. There's 4 16ths per beat, so you can see this whole kind of grid thing shaping up. So it works nicely. Let me switch up the closed hat. Yeah, the hat's got quite a nice kind of ring to it. There's a kind of soft decay on there that I think works nicely to fill in some gaps. So we've got some simple elements here. Let's have a think about a snare. It's actually got a really nice vibe to it, actually. I'm going to see if we can put something in here. So let's do, let's bring this up. Working nicely. The other thing we might want to do is bring a bit of swing. So this is going to take those swing positions here. So if you consider this number 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you have another 2, 2, 3, 4. It's the odd numbers which move to the right. So the position 2 and then the 4, these move to the right. You don't see this on this grid. Now let's take these all up to quite a heavy swing. That's a little bit too much, isn't it? Let's bring that down. That's working nicely. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to take something here, these Foley sounds. I think these are really interesting. There's a whole bunch of interesting textures. So let's come back to this. Let's choose something new. Let's see what we got in the list. We've got percussion acoustic. Really interesting textures. But actually, I think I want to go for a shaker. Okay, let's go for this. and I'm going to show you something. What I'm going to do here, something I love to do on the Triaz, the first version on Contact, is to take the number of steps and reduce these. I'm going to make life easier for myself here. Literally going to take it to 4 steps. And what I'm going to do is an interesting kind of velocity pattern, which is to go soft, medium, hard, medium. And what this is going to do is it's going to create a really nice kind of interesting kind of humanity to the shaker sound. Just going to check the velocity levels here. I'm going to increase this to maximum. So this is meaning that this is proportionate with the loudest point here. So we get a full range of shaker. So have a listen. Just going to solo this so you can really hear that. And when I told you about this velocity range, let me take this down. They're all the same now. So as I said, this is increasing the difference between those velocity levels on the grid there. So you can use it to fine tune. If that feels a little bit too much, just ease this back. So that's really nice. The whole principle could work really well actually with a tambourine. Let's take solo off. So yeah, let's come back to that sequencer grid. And I haven't tried this before. I'm wondering if there's a way to copy these. What's this? Oh, that's just to duplicate the actual section. I'd like actually to be able to copy from one row to another. I'm wondering if there's the capability to do so. As I said, some of this is me rediscovering this plugin with a different perspective. Wondering if this could do something similar. I don't want to break it. No. Or this looks like some kind of copy. Let me come to the shakers. Let me do this and then come over here. Have I got the ability to paste? I don't know. Well, look, I don't want to slow down the video. Let's take this one over here, this Foley. Let's do something similar. So we're doing the soft, medium, hard, medium, soft. And actually what I might do here is take one of these out. So we're going to bring down the pattern length again to 4 subdivisions. And by the way, you don't necessarily have to have these particularly even. You could go for something that's odd. And that could be quite interesting because it can create polyrhythms, things that change over time. But I'm going to keep it as it is, and I'm going to pick something here. I'm going to drop this down, and we're going to look for percussion acoustic and see if I can find a tambourine. So we've got a text search here. Let me take that off and see what we need. Okay. Looking for something quite short actually. Something like this is perfect. So back onto the sequencer. In fact, what I'll do is come back to the sounds. Let's solo this. Can I rename this? Doesn't appear to be the option, but I can certainly give it a graphic. Oh look, it's renamed it based on the graphic, which is quite interesting. So back onto this grid. Let's have a listen to that. Yeah, I like that. The fact that it's got a really reasonably nice kind of decay to the sound kind of fills in the gap. And let's come back to the sound and increase the velocity range. And let's see how that sits with the rest of it. Yeah, it's working nicely. And just to point out, when I select these drum sounds, remember we had this grid down the bottom. So this is really useful shortcut. You see we've got the programming that we've put in that's appearing here. And maybe we'll do something else. Maybe a tom. I don't like the sound of that tom. Let's pick up something a bit more electronic. Okay, I like that. Possibly a bit too long, but let's just see. So I'm going to program this time over here. So let's do a couple of these. Go like that. Just shortening that down there. So the hold is kind of like a gate, and then you have the decay, so that's the fade down after it's been held up at that high volume. So just showing you some of the shaping options there. And there are a couple of other things to point out. One of these is that the programming that I've put in here can be transported, and there is an export button here. And you've got the ability to render everything through MIDI. So if I click on here, it says drag to export. If I drag this up here, this is now available inside a clip. And that does include all of the velocity programming that was placed in there. So when it comes down to arranging, this is a great way to start shaping out your track. But remember, you'll need to turn off the host sync, because otherwise it's going to be doubling up. So let's have a listen. So you can see how versatile this is, and I've already been playing around with the idea of structuring using the export. I think it's a really great method. And the other thing that I remember is that there is some kind of effects that we can apply over the whole thing. Here we go, the master effects. So let's just have a listen, play around with these. Okay, so I wasn't really noticing anything with the noise. We can choose. So I think a touch of the drive, some of that vinyl noise, and this OTT is similar to the OTT effect in Ableton with this multi-band compression. That's really bringing a really interesting kind of lo-fi vibe. Let me turn this off and compare before and after. Certainly brings a ton of personality there, but you may prefer to be doing this kind of thing inside your DAW. So look, there are a ton of other things that you can do here. But I'm not going to spend any time going through those just now. Just wanted to show you some kind of like initial feelings here. And actually this new Ableton Live is really, really nice. Really nice. Some great improvements. So I'm really looking forward to learning more about this as well. So yeah, so Wave Alchemy, I trust their selections, their ability to curate great sounds. And yes, it's another drum sample library, and everyone's got probably thousands and thousands of samples, but these are exemplary drum samples. And I do believe actually when you install it, the samples can be found somewhere on a hard disk as well. So yeah, just let me know in the comments if that's true. I think I took a look. I don't want to be confirming that. It'd be great if somebody else can. So anyway, yeah, Triaz from Wave Alchemy. Great plugin.